A new survey by Huffington Post and YouGov indicates that the majority of Americans actually don't think that you're a bad person if you are prejudiced. Now, this looked into different demographics and the differences between them or among them when it comes to this specific issue. But the three specific questions that they asked individuals in this survey is, if a person holds a negative view of Muslims, black people, women, gay people, and immigrants, did that make them bad people, prejudiced but not necessarily bad, or neither of the above? So let's get to the results of this survey. So when it comes to the issue of someone who holds negative views of women, it turns out that 16% believe you are a bad person, 53% believe, you're prejudiced, but you're not necessarily bad, and 25% neither prejudiced nor a bad person. So even if you dislike women, you're open about it, whatever, you're not prejudiced, you're not a bad person.
Of course, that's ridiculous and insane, right? The 25% are like, yeah, of course, you just thinking bad things about women is perfectly rational. But that one I actually understand better than the others, and I'll tell you why don't hate me. Because there's a lot of conflict between men and women, there's divorce, there's relationships. So I chalk that one up to, well, it could be that someone was burned and then they feel like, women, you can't trust them. You shouldn't think that, that's totally wrong, but that might be part of the reason. Now, if it was just that, I'd go, okay, I got it. Now wait till you hear the rest of the results and see if within context, it might be actually that people just don't like others who aren't them.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about gay people. Someone who holds a negative view of gay people is 11% believe a bad person, 59% believe prejudiced but not necessarily a bad person, and 25% believe neither prejudiced nor a bad person.
So a quarter of the country says if you hold negative views towards gays, great. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, so this is what this survey and pretty much all of 2016 has taught me, okay? We're in the minority, right? Like, I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like I'm crazy for not hating everyone, and I feel like I'm crazy for not wanting to discriminate against everyone. Like, somehow I'm the bad guy. We're the bad guys. We're the minority. We don't relate to the majority of the country, and that's really, really sad.
So, again, it's a little bit more complicated because only 25% say that it's totally fine to hate gays. So they're in the minority in that case. We're in the minority in that we think, well, you might be kind of a bad person if you hate gays for no reason. That, yes, you're right. We're an even lower amount than the people who think it's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But the majority of the country, I think, is a defensible position, one I'd like to change a little bit, but to go, well, that's true, that's prejudice, that's wrong. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. You know why they say that, Anna? Because my Aunt Sally doesn't like gays, but that's because she goes to church. She's not a bad person. She makes such great banana nut bread for me, right? She's a good person. She just doesn't like the gays. You see, I think that's why it's 59%. But let's go through all of them.
All right. Someone who holds a negative view of black people. Okay. So 13% believe that individual is a bad person, 57% believe prejudiced but not necessarily a bad person, and 23% neither prejudiced nor a bad person. The green bar is the bar that I don't understand at all, right? So you're making arguments kind of, sympathizing maybe a little bit with, the yellow bar where people are like, prejudice, but not necessarily a bad person. And I understand that argument. But people who don't consider it prejudice to have a negative view of a certain group of people, then do you know what prejudice means? Do we need to go back to school and read the definition of that?
You're definitely in the red bar. There's no question about that. And so I don't sympathize with them. I'm trying to get everybody to empathize with one another. So what I'm saying about the people in the yellow bar is they are convincible. And I think that those folks don't necessarily mean harm, but they don't realize that their views or their Aunt Sally's views do have a lot of harm. And so we've got to address that, but I think that we can. The guys in the green, those are the real problems because they say, yeah, no, it's great when you don't like black people or gays or women or now the last two categories.
So let's talk about immigrants. And this is not just Muslims. Muslims are in their own category. This is just immigrants overall, okay? Someone who holds a negative view of immigrants, okay? 10% believe, that's a bad person. 54% believe prejudice, but not necessarily a bad person. 29% believe neither prejudice nor a bad person.
So there goes us, almost So Anna, your parents are immigrants.
Yeah.
29% of the country, almost a third, think by definition it's totally okay to hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, maybe hate's a strong word, but to dislike them.
Dislike them.
Right. Jesus, your parents are immigrants. Totally okay to dislike them. My parents immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself, first generation. Totally okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. 29% of the country says, well, of course we should dislike you. Amazing. Okay, we're now finally Muslims. You know, of course, that the green bar is going to be higher here.
It's the highest in this category. Okay, so 10% believe a bad person if you don't like Muslims. 51% believe prejudice, but not necessarily a bad person. 32% believes neither prejudice nor makes you a bad person.
Yep. So a third of the country says if you hold negative views towards Muslims, that's awesome. No problem at all. No problem. That doesn't make you even prejudiced. But as Anna said, wait a minute, I think you're misunderstanding the definition. If you are prejudiced, if you have a negative view of black people in general, that is prejudice. That's the definition of prejudice.
But there's like this weird growing trend of people who are openly hateful. And then if you call them out on their hatred or their bigotry or their discrimination, their racism, whatever it is, they get really offended by it. And it's interesting because they're the same people who whine and cry about safe spaces on college campuses and, you know, oh, people are so sensitive these days. But then they go around and transparently show how racist they are. And then if you call them a racist, they get offended. And it's maybe they don't know what it means to be a racist, but you're a racist, dude. Like, just accept it. Accept it. If you're proud of it and you're sharing your thoughts on it on a regular basis, just own it.
And you think that there's nothing wrong with it, then why are you hiding? But to be honest, a lot of them aren't hiding anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're putting up their racist flag and saying, yeah, that's right, I'm for white people. And blacks are violent and criminal, and Muslims are, by definition, dangerous because of their religious theology. Well, did you have the same thing in other religions? No, 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 no. It's just the Muslims, and the gays are dangerous, but the Muslims should be hated because they're against gays. But wait a minute, you said you were against gays. Doesn't matter. I hate the Muslims and the gays. And it goes on and on.
Just own it. Just own it, right? You're so proud of it. You're proud of how much you hate other people, so just own what you really are. Anyway.
Okay, and by the way, they of course, they will then turn around and say, well, you guys hate white people. You're such morons. We're against all prejudice. So if white people were powerless in this country and were preyed upon by others, you know who would be the first to step up and defend them? Us. Okay, because we're against prejudice. And by the way, even if they're not powerless overall, you know, white people have plenty of power in this country. But that guy in the parking lot in Charlotte who was attacked by the black guys, I would hope that I'd be the first guy to defend him. Because in that context, he's enormously powerless. And there's like 10 guys against one. You step up and you defend that guy.
Of course.
Right? But they assume that we think like they do. They think, well, I'm white. Armenians are part of the caucus, which makes me Caucasian. I'm white, okay? The argument that I don't like white people is stupid. If you thought I was fiery in this video, wait till you see how I get in the postgame show. Become a member and watch our members-only postgame show at tytnetwork.com/join.